Hi guys and welcome back. Today is going to be a Skillshare sponsored video, and I love doing these because I love their product. It's something that I personally always love going back to and getting ideas from. But a little refresh on if you don't know what Skillshare is. Skillshare is a website that has over 15,000 video classes focused on creative topics, and I absolutely love learning from a classroom type environment. So these are perfect for me, where they're very easy to go in and get these new ideas and concepts, especially when I know that I want to create a piece, but I would like to have a little bit of a challenge or something that I can learn from it. So I like to go through there and just look through all sorts of different topics and ideas. But today I'm excited to be able to offer you guys a little promotion. For the first 50 people to use this, you can get 2 months free to try out Skillshare and see how you like it. The code for that is Danica4, Danica4, and I'll have it down in the corner so you can see it. It's also going to be in the description, as well as a link that you can use will all be down in the description as well. And as always, I like to choose a specific class that I'm learning from for each of these videos, since it's fun to get these little nuggets of information and then put it into a piece. So today I'm working from a class that I found that's from Jacqueline Karras, and it's called DIY Gold Foiling. And it was perfect because from my last one, it was very skill and educational, and this one I just want to do something very embellishing and fun, and yeah, this one was perfect for it. I will talk more about what the actual things that I learned from this class were and the foiling that I'm going to be using in a little bit, because that is actually one of the last steps that I do on this painting. But for now, we can talk a little bit about the piece up to that point. And one of the things that I loved about that class is that she talked about several ways that she incorporated the gold foiling, which is really helpful, because and probably a lot of people get into a certain mindset of how you incorporate things or how you design things out, and being able to see how someone else will think it through and different solutions for something is actually really helpful. So I did know that I wanted the foiling to be very connected with the design of this piece. I initially, my brain when I first was thinking was just like a shape behind her, which is something that I've done many times, and it's not nearly as interesting or challenging as I wanted it to be. So watching through those videos really did help me get my brain moving and thinking about things on how I can incorporate it. Ultimately, I do decide to do a little bit of this dripping potion bottle that lands on her tabletop. I did have a design sketched out at the beginning. I don't know if you really saw that, but I knew that that wasn't going to be the final, but I did want that basic concept, and then when I get to that point where I'm incorporating it, I do sketch it out and then transfer it over. And we can go ahead and talk a little bit about the thing that I would have liked to improve on, since it happens right away when I start painting this one. It's like with all paintings, there's always going to be something that I wish that I could have done better. For this one, it's the background for sure. I wanted the foreground, the character, and the table to all be inked in, and then I wanted the background to be painted in without having any line work. I like the idea of adding more variety like that to my pieces, which I think was definitely a good idea if I had executed it okay. But the problem with when I try to go in with freehand details like this is that I usually end up going a little bit overboard, and then I have to overcorrect a little bit to make it fit the whole piece and everything. And that was definitely what happened for this one. I had my sketch next to me that I was working off of, the basic shapes that I wanted to get in there, but things just kept building up, and suddenly it was overrun, and I had to do a couple layers to make it so it wasn't quite so contrasted, so the eye would immediately go to the background, which is not what I wanted. So yeah, watching over this, I knew that it would be a little bit of that moment where I saw that point that I wish that I had stopped, and it was pretty early on with the painting, with the leaves and the branches coming in. I liked it when it was just basically that one central vine coming in from both sides, really. And if I had stopped there, I think I would have been a lot happier. But that's again another very strong learning experience, especially for things that I'm not really very comfortable with, or things that I don't do a lot of, like this, doing paintings that are lineless. So the more that I learn from mistakes on things like that, the more I know that I'm actually going to improve and get better on. And I did make a little bit of a mistake with her neck tattoo where I just messed up one of the shapes. So the solution that I had was just to fill it all in with black. That way when I get to the final end where I'm working with gouache to add extra little details that I want to overlap, and just those final little touches, I can go back over her neck tattoo and have the black more as an outline, and that will definitely knock it down so it's not the only very stark, darkly inked tattoo on her skin. And that's definitely something that I've really enjoyed, being able to utilize gouache in my watercolors more, is just looking for things that normally with watercolor, without that tool of having an opaque option, I would just have to live with. But this is something that I made a little mistake, but I immediately was able to think through how to fix it and how to solve it in the most okay way for me. And today I'm actually using hot press paper. I used a little bit in the past where I got a really thick sheet, and I got a huge bundle of my Arches watercolor paper, only this time it's hot press. So it's kind of fun and exciting because it is something that I am very not skilled at yet. I don't know exactly how to handle it, and it is surprising how much of a difference there is between painting on hot press and cold press. So just a little refresher, cold press is basically textured and hot press is very smooth. And it's kind of counterintuitive, you'd think, but getting very smooth, flat, even washes on hot press, where it's a very smooth paper, it's actually much harder than on cold press paper. On cold press, it's surprisingly very easy to control once you get a handle on how to use watercolors to get a very smooth watercolor wash. But on the hot press, I noticed there was a lot of areas where the water would pool around the edges of the paint that I put down, so I'd have like a weirdly darker outline around the paint that I just put, where really I just wanted it to blend in with the color behind it. And I started getting a little bit of a hang of how to blend it out better and how to handle the water so it didn't just sit on top and pool and then create some weird effects or dry weirdly. That was also an issue. So it is something that, as I even just worked on this one piece, I felt like I was learning some things and I was getting a little bit better of a handle. So I'm excited to figure this out a little bit more and get a handle on how to utilize it best. I will say it is a dream to ink with microns on hot press paper over cold press paper. So I think that when Inktober comes around, I am absolutely going to be favoring the hot press paper. And I think as I was working on this hot press a little bit more, I was starting to get a handle on how much water to have on the brush, because I think that actually does make a difference. I think that my cold press paper, I could have a much wetter brush that's a little bit more loaded up with paint, and it would take it a lot better. It would lay it out a lot more evenly, as when I'm using my hot press, I think that it pooled up a little bit weirdly and I couldn't quite get it as smooth, which I don't think is actually a bad thing. It's just balancing out how I go in with new paint when I'm incorporating, when I'm painting. So it's helpful to start taking notes on how it handles differently, at least for me, for figuring out what feels the same, what things feel differently, and then what is the cause of those things to be different. And that's what I love about actually trying different mediums, different tools, different papers out, is that it forces me to think through the process in a way that I normally don't need to think about it, which again makes me think about new ways to fix different problems or add new elements into my process. So I am actually really excited to get into figuring out how to use hot press to the full range that it can be used in. Okay, so we can finally talk about the foiling that I did. So the video is called gold foiling, but there's a lot of different colors that they come in, and I believe the color was opal, but it has this really cool marbleized look. So what I did was I just actually bought the glue that went with this. I don't normally, but I needed a good glue that would work for my gold leaf as well, and I hope that this would, and it does. I'm really excited about that. But when I went down for the detail, I actually laid it on pretty thick. I wanted an embossed look, so I put it everywhere that I needed it to be, and then I let it dry until it was clear all the way through. And that was when it was pretty rigid to the touch, but just a little bit tacky. And then I laid the foil on top, and I took the back of my paintbrush and actually rubbed it into all the sides of the glue, since again, it was pretty three-dimensional. It was a very thick glue, so I wanted to make sure that it was fully coated. So I just rubbed my paintbrush along every edge and every nook and cranny so that it would be as colorful as I wanted. So any area that I didn't get really in there with rubbing it in, it wouldn't stick. So I was very thorough with that. And once I got basically everything as good as I thought it would be, I started peeling up carefully, and I could notice if there was going to be a spot that it wasn't sticking. It actually stuck to the plastic part of it a little bit more. So when it stuck, it was when then I needed to lay it back down, rub it on a little bit more, and then it peeled off cleanly. And then I just released the whole design, and it came off pretty cleanly, and it was really cool to watch this little transformation of it going from just heaps of glue into this really beautiful look. And that is it for today's piece. Again, don't forget to check out Skillshare, and if you're one of the first 50, then you'll get that 2-month free deal, and the code is Danica4. And as usual, I do have the painting available, so if you'd like the original, I've got her at my art shop. And I also will have prints of this available as well, so I'll have a link in the description as well as in the end card that'll take you there. And yeah, that is about it for today. I had a lot of fun working with a new element to have in this piece, so yeah, I think that I'll definitely be looking at new ways to incorporate this foil as well into other pieces. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at my next video. I do post every Wednesdays and Saturdays.